this is Mel, and this is my video about alcoholism and autism, or alcohol and autism, something like that. One of the things that got me thinking about this was that I have been diagnosed at the age of 49, and up until fairly recently I haven't had or been aware of having any problems, for want of a better word, any symptoms. I don't really like the word symptoms because it makes it sound like autism is a disease, but I haven't been experiencing any of the issues, and I've been trying to work out what that's about. How come I'm suddenly autistic in my late 40s when I wasn't before? And of course starting to realise that a lot of the things that I just had to get over were actually me dealing with autism issues, and one of them in particular, it was obvious to me what was happening, because dealing with people, I've worked with people as a teacher, as an antenatal teacher for many years, and that was fine, but it's only in the last couple of years that when I've spent a lot of time with people, I need to be on my own and I need to get a break and get some solitude. That wasn't really an issue before. Not as much. I used to do this thing called hibernating, where I used to tell the children that I'm in a cardboard box, like a hedgehog, you can't disturb me, and I would shut my door and I didn't want to talk to anybody. But that was really the only, and that was after 6 hours of constant being with people and teaching them. And so I started to become aware of that at the end of my teaching career. But that was really the only indication I had that there was any issue, and I guess I kind of figured that was fairly normal. And then August 2017, I stopped drinking. So I've been a heavy drinker for many years. I started drinking as a teenager, and then went to university and drank quite heavily there. And then when I started work, we didn't drink every night or drink at home, but we went out the weekends and drank quite a lot. And if I was drinking, I wouldn't just have a glass or two. If I was drinking heavily. And by the time 2017 rolled around, I was drinking every day, battling with myself to try not to. And at my worst, I would have been having my recommended 14 units pretty much every day, which wasn't good. And I read a really good book and I stopped drinking, which was fab. But it was then that other things started to become more difficult, and it's not until really last week that I've started to put those things together and work out what was going on. Alcohol is really, really good from helping you to mask issues with people. So I am a different person when I'm drinking alcohol. I'm much more outgoing, uninhibited, friendly. I don't worry about stuff. The busy mind that's going on in the background all the time is kind of wound down a notch or two. And dealing with people, talking to people is so much easier. And so I think when I was having an argument with myself during the day and I'm not supposed to be drinking, no, but I really want to have a drink, what I was doing is experiencing the stress of being around people and wanting to switch that off. And successfully talking myself into doing just that. But once I stopped drinking, there wasn't that argument anymore, and I wasn't having that switch off anymore. And I started to find that Wednesdays in particular were really tricky for me. I'd leave the house at 8 in the morning, I'd start work. I was working as a bookkeeper at that point, about a couple of years ago. And I'd be working in a shop with people I knew, the back of a shop, doing 3-4 hours of bookkeeping, largely sat on my own, and then but interacting with my clients and occasionally customers and that kind of thing. And then I'd go from there to a cafe where we have our knit group, and I'd spend 2 or 3 hours there knitting with friends, and then I'd pick up the girls from staying late from school and I'd come home, and I was always exhausted on Wednesdays. Just could not understand why I was so exhausted. I hadn't been working all day. I'd only been working for 3 or 4 hours, and the rest of the day I'd been doing social stuff. And it's things like this that just, things were going on, but I wasn't really aware of the link between them. And now I think what was going on was it was just being with people all day. Sometimes in a work situation, sometimes in a social, but still being with people, and I was exhausted. And previously I would have come home and just had a glass of wine and then started to let that go, and I would have been fine. But I wasn't doing that anymore. So that answers one of those, how did I not know, and why am I suddenly having problems where I wasn't before, questions. But also it brings up a really interesting concept, which is there a link between autism and alcohol use, misuse, overuse, whatever? I did a bit of Googling on it last night, and it seems that there is a link. But the problem is, people like me, people who are have lived long enough to have developed a problem with alcohol and are diagnosed with autism, are relatively few of us. I think I'm talking to quite a few late diagnosed women here, or maybe undiagnosed but suspected autistic women. But in the main, although there are lots and lots of diagnoses going on now, they are usually younger people, children mostly, and the NHS mental health teams and paediatric teams are so stretched as it is, doing assessments for young people, that adults just aren't getting assessed. So there are relatively few people like me around who are diagnosed autistic but are old enough to have experienced alcohol use as a coping mechanism. So I guess down the road these research subjects will be picked up, but for now there isn't much around. But it is anecdotally known that alcohol is very, very useful for autistic people, to help you socialise. And certainly for the last 5 years or more, I couldn't imagine a social situation without alcohol. In fact, I wouldn't go to a social situation that didn't have alcohol, and I kind of blamed myself for that, for being too dependent on alcohol, but quite possibly that was just because I was autistic and I needed the alcohol. So maybe that's one thing the diagnosis will do for me, is to make me feel less guilty. But either way, the fact is I don't drink anymore. I did ironically have sorry, I keep yawning on camera. Since the diagnosis and before, just around about when the assessment was due, I was very, very tense and massively overthinking, and I did have alcohol a couple of nights. I did have alcohol on Friday night. I thought once the assessment was done I would be calmer, but actually I had real trouble sleeping on Thursday night after the assessment, because I was trying to answer the question, what does this mean? It's quite an existential question, of what does this diagnosis actually mean for me? So Friday night I had some wine. I had 3 normal bubbly glasses full of cava, and the rest of it's still in the fridge. It was probably half a bottle, and a bottle of cava is 8.6 units. That's 4.3 units, which isn't a huge amount by any means. And I then, after that, had a big mug of herbal tea and some water in my bed. So it wasn't the kind of alcohol binge you'd expect to produce a hangover, and yet I had a chronic headache all day Saturday because of it. Well, I say because of it. I can't say for certain that it was because of it, but it very much felt like it was. And I've been sort of dabbling with alcohol the last 6 months, and sometimes having some, sometimes not. And I think just, actually, no, I'm going to go back to not drinking at all, because I'm definitely happier when I'm not drinking. I started having that argument with myself on Friday as we were starting to cook. Oh, I'd really like a glass of wine. But no, you don't drink, it wouldn't be a good idea. You won't be able to do any knitting if you have a glass of wine. You might not feel so well tomorrow. But I really want one. I am so over that conversation with myself. I am not wanting to go back to that, and I think that was having that conversation is what made me think, no, don't think so. So yeah, I'm back to not drinking at all, and I'm much happier. Just for information, if anybody wants to know, the book that I read was called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. I know it's combinations of some of my kids' names, I think that's her name, but This Naked Mind, very, very useful book. So that's more or less it, really. I'll probably upload this one as it is and have it as a standalone chat. If you've got any thoughts on it, if you don't want to share them publicly, then do contact me directly, privately. My email is mel@sosyorkshire.co.uk. I'll put it up here. So email me personally if you want to talk about this. If this rings any bells for you. If it's something you're happy to share, then do comment below, because you know, as time goes on, slowly I hope more people will see this, and hopefully it'll be helpful. And if you're happy to share your thoughts, it'd be nice to add that to the information available. But obviously, it's a personal thing. So, okay, well, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon.